Look in your crystal ball. What happens next, Carmen?
Well, unless we have a massive change, which I don't really foresee with this third draft, right now, CodeNEXT is incredibly unpopular. It's not popular among neighborhoods. It's not very popular among most of the development crowd. Well, I think there are some developers who think they could probably get plenty rich on it if they can, they can use certain tools, they can interpret it. But a lot of folks that I hear, even on the pro-density side, aren't happy with it, in particular because certain pieces of density have been taken out. So I think it's very likely that we're going to have to call this thing an $8.5 million loss. It's very unfortunate, and I hope that we can take a huge amount of the input that we've gotten in the process and actually try to create something that works. But frankly, I think the problem is we're trying to do comprehensive planning with code, and you don't do that. Ask any urban planner. You do community planning, and then you write a code to support it. And we got halfway through a neighborhood planning process, and the city stopped and said, it's broken, let's do this whole redo. I'm not saying the neighborhood planning process was perfect, but there are some really good models out there that have actually helped neighborhoods and developers come up with win-win deals to create more housing. I think we should be looking at those models and try to turn this thing around.
You mentioned $8.5 million. That's how much we've spent so far trying to prepare this. You have the signatures to get this on the ballot, correct?
We do. We have over 29,000. We needed 20.
And where is that at this point? Is it going to be on the ballot?
Well, it better be. It's up to the council now. I mean, technically...
They don't want it on the ballot.
I think they're going to have to show where their allegiances are. I mean, it's going to really show where some of the alliances and affiliations are when the council actually has to vote on putting it on the ballot or not.
Citizens tend to vote no when they don't understand something, and nobody understands CodeNEXT.
No.
Right?
Yeah, well, or they understand it and may not like it.
That's true. That's true.
I'd say yes, you're right. It is such a complex issue. I mean, you're talking about the regulations that apply to every single tract, commercial or residential, in the entire city. There's no elevator pitch for it. It is incredibly complex by definition.
Sure.
And so you have to fall back on, as you mentioned, planning. That's why the Imagine Austin plan is there. And CodeNEXT was specifically part of the Imagine Austin plan. So we are following, as a city, the path that was laid out for us. And we're right at a turning point here in the process. So you asked sort of where we're at and where we're going. Up to now, city staff and the consultants have been the one that have generated, via this $8 million and countless hours of effort, the code that's written today, version 3. And it just was taken up by Planning Commission last night to start debating and approving changes to that include policy. Bear in mind, staff can't change policy. They like to say that a lot. That they defer to council routinely. But so far, we've spent all this time, but have yet to really get to the policy part. And that's happening literally right now. So over the next 3 months or so, Planning Commission is going to take it up. They're going to give their recommendation to council, and then council is going to take it up, and then hopefully pass a version of CodeNEXT that is much closer to perhaps what we're both talking about here than the one that is written today in version 3.
What needs to happen for you to pull your petition back? What would have to happen over the next several months to not put this up on a ballot?
Well, I think
you kind of have to now. You got the signatures, right?
Yeah, sure. And the Land Development Code's not going to solve all of our issues. It may have some tools in it. It can certainly, I think, accelerate some of the issues that we have with affordability and accelerate displacement if we're not careful. We are going to need policy. And right now, there's a 6-point plan, a 6-point set of resolutions that came out of East Austin that Community Not Commodity has supported, called the People's Plan. And it calls for several different tools and policy recommendations that could actually mitigate some of our displacement issues and generate some true affordable housing. And these are documents that have had developer input. I mean, we could try to regulate developers. First of all, we're in the state of Texas. You can't force a developer to build affordable housing except for in certain pockets like PUDs. You offer these sort of exceptions to the rule. But for the most part, the density bonus, they're voluntary programs. And if you make the requirements too stringent, a developer's going to pull out because they can't turn a profit. They can't they can't break even in certain situations. But if we can pair those requirements or those asks with actual dollars that we invest in low-income housing trust fund. We give developers some flexibility, for example, instead of forcing, one or two, quote, affordable studio apartments in a condominium. Can we give them the ability to actually pay into a fund that could help people repair homes or subsidize rents or build more affordable housing on publicly owned land that we have that's sitting there? How can we actually generate some more housing in the range that our market is not providing it?
Right.
I think if our council would take action on a lot of those things and really show that they care about equity, that they care about not just homeowners' equity, but actually protecting some of the marginalized communities and the right of neighborhoods to play a part in how their areas are developed, I think we could make CodeNEXT more popular. But it's got to be more simple. I mean, right now, I just heard that the signage portion is something like 80-something pages long.
On signage.
On signage.
How big, how high, how bright.
It was so bad that staff completely rewrote it, and a billboard requirement got taken out of there. Reagan showed up furious. I mean, it's just a mess right now. So it's going to really kind of take a miracle to make this thing viable, I think, from totally opposing sides that both don't like it.